The alarm rang through the space station at 3 in the morning. Admiral Minu rubbed his eyes and reached for his communicator. He had been dreaming about his daughter's birthday party back on Earth. Now that dream faded as reality came rushing in. "Sir, we have an emergency transmission from the Galactic Council," the voice on the other end said. The young officer sounded scared. Minu got dressed quickly and headed to the command center. His boots echoed in the empty corridors of Earth's orbital defense station. Through the windows, he could see his home planet below, peaceful and blue. He wondered how long that peace would last. The command center was already full of people when he arrived. Everyone looked worried. On the main screen, an alien face appeared. Minu recognized Ambassador immediately. The insect-like creature's many eyes were moving rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "Admiral," said, his voice translator making his words sound flat and mechanical. "We need Earth's help. Please, you must listen to what I have to say." Minu sat down in his chair. In the 15 years since Earth joined the galactic community, the Council had never asked for help. They had always treated humans like children who didn't understand the bigger universe. Now here was their top ambassador, begging. "Go ahead, Ambassador," Minu said calmly. The screen changed. It showed a star system, but something was terribly wrong. Planets were gone. Space stations were destroyed. Millions of small objects filled the view, moving like a swarm of insects. 3 weeks ago they appeared in the outer rim, explained. "We call them the Devourers. They consume everything. Planets, ships, stations, even the asteroids. They eat it all and make more of themselves." Minu leaned forward. "What weapons have you used against them?" "Everything," said, and his voice sounded broken. "Plasma cannons, energy shields, quantum missiles. Nothing works for long. They adapt. After we hit them with a weapon once or twice, it stops working. They learn too fast." The screen showed a battle. Minu watched as beautiful alien warships fired bright energy beams at the swarm. At first, the Devourers died by the thousands. But then they started surviving the hits. Within minutes, the energy weapons did nothing at all. The swarm surrounded the alien ships and tore them apart. "How many ships have you lost?" Minu asked. 2,000 warships," said quietly. 50 million crew members. 3 entire star systems, and we cannot stop them." The room fell silent. 2,000 ships was more than Earth's entire fleet 10 times over. The Galactic Council had always seemed so powerful, so advanced. Now they were losing a war. "Why come to us?" Minu asked. "Earth only has 200 warships. We're the members of the Council. What can we do that you cannot?" His eyes stopped moving. He stared directly at Minu through the screen. "Because you are different, Admiral. Your weapons are different. Your way of thinking is different. We have become comfortable with our technology. We forgot how to truly fight. But Earth, your species has never stopped fighting. Your history is full of wars. Perhaps you remember something we have forgotten." Minu stood up and walked to the window. He looked down at Earth again. His home, his family. Every person he loved was down there on that blue planet. If the Devourers won, they would eventually come here. They would eat everything, including Earth. "I need to speak with the World Council," Minu said. "There is no time," said urgently. "Every hour we delay, the swarm grows larger. Please, Admiral, we are desperate." Minu turned back to the screen. He thought about Captain, his best ship commander. He thought about all the young men and women serving in Earth's fleet. He would be asking them to fly into a war that had already killed millions. Many of them would not come home. But he also knew was right. If Earth waited, the swarm would only get stronger. "I'll take the fleet," Minu said. "All of it. But we fight our way with our weapons. No interference from the Council." His body sagged with relief. "Thank you, Admiral. Thank you. We will send you all our data on the Devourers immediately." The transmission ended. Minu turned to his staff officers. They were all waiting for orders. "Wake everyone up," he said. I want every ship ready to leave in 12 hours. Send a message to Captain on the Defiance. She's in command of the fleet operations. I want all Marines on alert. Have Doctor start analyzing the Council's data on the enemy. And somebody get Engineer Han up here. We're going to need his creative mind. The officers rushed to follow his orders. Within minutes, alarms were ringing throughout the entire Earth defense network. Ships began powering up their engines. Marines loaded their weapons. Scientists started studying enemy data. Minyu sent a quick message to his daughter. I have to go away for a while. Be good for your mother. I love you. He knew she wouldn't understand why Daddy had to leave. She was only 6 years old. 8 hours later, Captain arrived at the command station. She was a small woman but fierce, with sharp eyes that missed nothing. I heard we're going to war, sir, she said. Yes, Minyu replied. Against an enemy that adapts to any weapon. The Council's energy weapons are useless now. Smiled, it was not a nice smile. Good thing we still use bullets and bombs then. That's what I'm hopping, Minyu said. The Council thinks our weapons are primitive. Maybe being primitive is exactly what we need. 12 hours after call, Earth's entire war fleet gathered in orbit. 200 warships, from massive carriers to small destroyers. 50,000 Marines in transport ships. And weapons that the galaxy considered old-fashioned. Magnetic that threw metal at incredible speeds, nuclear missiles, chemical weapons, and simple explosive bombs. Admiral Minyu stood on the bridge of the flagship Defiance, with Captain beside him. Through the window, he could see all the other ships arranged in formation. Each one carried brave men and women willing to fight for their home. All ships report ready, sir, an officer announced. Minyu took a deep breath. Then let's go show the galaxy what humans can do. All ships jumped to hyperspace. Destination, the war zone. The stars stretched and blurred. Earth's war fleet disappeared, heading toward a battle that would change everything. Behind them, the blue planet continued spinning, unaware that its children were flying off to save the galaxy. The journey through hyperspace took 3 days. Admiral Minyu used that time to prepare. Every ship ran combat drills. Marines practiced boarding tactics. Doctor studied every piece of data the Council had sent about the Devourers. On the 3rd day, she came to Minyu's office with bad news written all over her face. They're biological, she said, putting images on his desk screen. Not machines. Living creatures that work together like a hive. The Council's data shows they can adapt to any energy-based weapon within hours, sometimes minutes. Minyu studied the images. The Devourers looked like twisted combinations of different animals, all merged together in horrible ways. What about physical weapons? Bullets, explosives? The Council hasn't used those in centuries, said. Their data has nothing about it. We'll be the first to try. Then we better make our first try count, Minyu said. The fleet dropped out of hyperspace near the contested system. What they saw made everyone go silent. Space was full of debris. Thousands of destroyed alien ships floated everywhere, torn into pieces. Some of the pieces were still recognizable as ships. Others were just twisted metal and broken hull plates. It looked like a graveyard that stretched forever. My God, Captain whispered beside Minyu. Contact the Council forces, Minyu ordered. Let them know we're here. A reptilian face appeared on the screen. Fleet Commander looked tired and angry. So Earth finally arrives. I hope you brought more than 200 ships, Admiral. We lost that many just yesterday. We brought what we have, Minyu said calmly. And we brought different weapons. Show us where the enemy is. Made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. The enemy is everywhere, but there's a large swarm heading toward this position right now. They'll be here in 2 hours. I suggest you run while you still can. We didn't come here to run, Minyu said. We came here to fight. The transmission ended. Minyu turned to his crew. All ships to battle formation. Load all weapons. I want every gun ready to fire. Engineer's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, the magnetic are charged and ready. We have 5,000 tungsten rounds per ship. Nuclear missiles are armed. Explosive torpedoes are loaded. Good, Minyu said. Make sure every weapon is triple-checked. We're going to throw everything we have at them. The 2 hours passed slowly. The crew was nervous. They had all seen the data, watched the videos of the Council ships being torn apart. They knew what was coming. Then the sensors started screaming. "Contact!" shouted Commander from his tactical station. "Multiple contacts, thousands of them, no wait. Tens of thousands, they're still coming, sir, there are hundreds of thousands of them." The main screen showed the swarm approaching. It looked like a dark cloud moving through space, but when the cameras zoomed in, everyone could see individual creatures. Each one was about the size of a small ship, with multiple limbs and glowing spots on their bodies. They moved together perfectly, like a school of fish. "Council forces are retreating," reported. "Is pulling back all his remaining ships." "Let them run," Minyu said. "We're staying right here. All ships hold position. Wait for my command." Captain gripped the arms of her chair. "They're getting close, sir. 2 million kilometers. 1,500,000. The swarm filled the entire view screen now. It was the most terrifying thing Minyu had ever seen, but he kept his voice steady. "All ships target the center of the swarm. Fire on my mark. 3, 2, 1, fire." 200 ships opened fire at once. They threw tungsten rods at nearly the speed of light. The rods were simple pieces of metal, nothing fancy or high-tech, just pure mass moving incredibly fast. The rods hit the swarm like invisible hammers. Thousands of devourers exploded instantly. The creatures had no shields to stop the kinetic energy. The simple physics of mass and velocity tore through them. "They're adapting," shouted. "The ones in the back are changing, growing thicker armor." "Good," Minyu said coldly. "More armor means they're heavier. Heavier means they move slower. Keep firing. Don't give them time to think." The battle became chaos. The swarm tried to surround the human fleet but was ready. She had positioned the ships in a sphere formation so they could fire in all directions. The devourers died by the thousands, then by the tens of thousands. But there were so many of them. Some got through the firing pattern and reached the outer ships. "The destroyer Phoenix is under attack," someone yelled. "They're on the hull." "Nuclear missiles, target the Phoenix's position," Minyu ordered. "Sir, our own people." "Do it now." The missiles launched. They exploded right next to the Phoenix, catching both the ship and the devourers attacking it in the nuclear blast. When the light faded, the Phoenix was badly damaged but still flying. The devourers were gone. "This is Phoenix," came a shaky voice. "We're hurt but alive, thank you, sir." "Stay in formation," Minyu ordered. "We're not done yet." Lieutenant Sora's fighter squadron launched from the carrier ships. The small, fast fighters dove into the swarm like hawks attacking a flock of birds. Each fighter carried nuclear warheads that they delivered right into the thickest parts of the swarm before pulling away. "This is Sora, warhead away." The young pilot's voice was excited. She was scared but not showing it. The nuclear explosion turned 1,000 devourers into ash. The battle lasted 4 hours. When it finally ended, the space around the human fleet was full of dead devourers. Hundreds of thousands of them floated in the void. But the victory had cost Earth 15 ships and 3,000 crew members. Minyu stood on the bridge looking at the casualty reports. 15 ships lost, 3,000 people who would never go home, but they had won. They had done what the Council could not do. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Commander," an officer said. Appeared on the screen. His eyes were wide with shock. How did you do that? We've been fighting them for weeks. We couldn't, we never." "We used simple weapons," Minyu said. "Weapons that can't be adapted to easily. The Devourers might learn to grow thicker armor, but that just makes them slower and easier to hit. They can't change the laws of physics. Remarkable, said quietly. We had forgotten. We spent so long using energy weapons that we forgot about kinetic force. Forgive me, Admiral, I doubted you. I doubted humans. I was wrong. You weren't wrong to doubt, Minyu said. You were wrong to give up. Now, do you want to join us in this fight, or do you want to keep running? Straightened up, we will fight alongside Earth. Show us how. Doctor came to the bridge carrying samples she had collected during the battle. Admiral, I need to tell you something. These creatures are not just mindless animals. I've been studying their neural patterns. They have a hive mind. They're intelligent and coordinating their attacks. And worse, they're learning from every battle. We surprised them today, but next time they'll be ready for kinetic weapons. Then we better keep surprising them, Minyu said. Engineer Han, start working on new weapons. I want chemical agents, biological weapons, radiation bombs. Everything in our arsenal that the galaxy considers too brutal or too dangerous. We're going to need all of it. Yes, sir, replied. He sounded almost excited. Engineers loved a good challenge. Captain walked over to Minyu. We won today, but we lost good people. The crew is shaken. I know, Minyu said, but we proved something important. We proved humans can fight these things. Now we need to prove we can win the war. Out in space, the Council ships slowly returned to join the human fleet. They looked at the field of dead devourers with new respect. The humans had arrived, and everything had changed. Doctor worked for 3 days without sleep. The laboratory on the Defiance was full of equipment analyzing the devourer specimens. Some of the creatures were still alive, kept in special containers. They moved slowly, trying to break free, their multiple limbs scratching at the walls. On the 3rd day, she called Admiral Minyu to the lab. Her eyes were red from exhaustion, but she looked excited. I figured it out, she said, pulling up images on her screen. Look at this. The devourers are not separate creatures. They're all connected through some kind of biological signal. It's like a radio network, but it uses chemicals and electrical pulses through space itself. Minyu studied the data. He didn't understand all of it, but he got the basic idea. A hive mind. Exactly, and that's why they adapt so fast. Every devourer that survives an attack shares what it learned with all the others instantly. But here's the important part. She pointed to another image. The Council's energy weapons actually fed them power. The shields and plasma beams gave them energy to grow and adapt faster. But our weapons don't do that, Minyu said. Right, kinetic weapons just destroy with force. Nuclear weapons use radiation that damages their cells. Chemical weapons poison them. These are things they haven't encountered in a very long time, maybe thousands of years, so they don't know how to adapt quickly. Minyu smiled. So by using old, simple weapons, we're actually making them work harder to defend themselves. Yes, and I have more good news. I found a weakness. Their hive mind signal can be disrupted by certain kinds of radiation. If we hit them with the right frequency, they lose coordination. They become confused and stupid. Can Engineer Han build a weapon that does that? I already asked him. He's working on it now. Minyu found in the engineering bay, surrounded by parts and tools. The engineer had taken apart several alien devices and was combining them with human technology in ways that probably violated a dozen safety regulations. Admiral said cheerfully, Doctor told you about the radiation disruptor. I'm almost done. It won't kill them, but it will scramble their brains for a few minutes, long enough for us to hit them with everything else. How soon can you have them ready? Give me 6 hours. I can build one for each ship. While worked, Commander visited the Defiance. The reptilian commander walked through the human ship, looking at everything with curious eyes. He stopped at one of the weapon storage bays. These are your armories, he asked. They're so primitive. Sergeant Jinnah was there, checking rifles and grenades with her Marines. She looked up at. Primitive means simple. Simple means it works. These rifles have been firing bullets for over 400 years. We know exactly what they'll do. Picked up one of the rifles. It was heavy, made of metal and polymer. Our weapons are made of light and energy. They're much more advanced. And how well did your advanced weapons work against the Devourers? Jinnah asked bluntly. Put the rifle down carefully. I see your point. That evening, Ambassador arrived with his diplomatic ship. He met with Minyu in the conference room. The ambassador looked ashamed. Admiral, I must tell you something, said. The council made a terrible mistake. We became too comfortable. For millions of years, we had no real enemies. We made our weapons fancy and our ships beautiful. We forgot that war is ugly and brutal. You're not the first civilization to make that mistake, Minyu said. Earth did the same thing many times in our history. Then reality would remind us, usually in painful ways. But you never forgot completely. Your species has been fighting wars for its entire existence. War is in your culture, your history, your very nature. Minyu nodded slowly. That's true, and it's not something we're proud of. We wish we could be peaceful like you, but maybe our violent history is useful now. More than useful, Admiral, it may save us all. The alert came suddenly. Sensors detected a massive devourer force heading towards Sanctuary Station, a giant space station that held 3 million alien refugees. If the station fell, all those people would die. All ships battle stations, Minyu ordered. We're going to protect that station, no matter what. The fleet moved to intercept the swarm. This time, the Devourers had learned. They came at the human ships from multiple directions, trying to split up the formation. They had grown thicker armor to protect against the Admiral. They adapted, said from Tactical. The armor is absorbing some of our kinetic rounds. Switch to armor-piercing rounds, Minyu ordered, and activate Engineer Hand's new toys. Each ship activated the radiation disruptor. Invisible waves of radiation pulsed out from the fleet. The effect was immediate and spectacular. The Devourers suddenly lost their coordination. Some flew into each other. Others just stopped moving, drifting in space like they forgot what they were doing. Fire everything, Captain shouted. The human fleet unleashed hell, tore through the confused swarm. Nuclear missiles created miniature suns that vaporized thousands of Devourers. Chemical weapons spread through the swarm like poison, melting the creatures from the inside. Explosive torpedoes ripped them apart with simple, brutal force. But the swarm was huge. Some Devourers were getting through to Sanctuary Station. They attached to the hull and started eating through the metal. Sergeant Jinnah, take your Marines, Minyu ordered. Board that station and clear it. Yes, sir, Jinnah replied. 5 transport ships flew to Sanctuary Station. They docked at the emergency airlocks. Jinnah led 5,000 Marines into the station, carrying rifles, grenades, and flamethrowers. Yes, flamethrowers. The galaxy thought humans were crazy for still using fire as a weapon, but fire worked. Inside the station, the corridors were dark and full of screaming aliens running for safety. The Devourers had broken through in a dozen places. They crawled through the corridors, eating everything in their path. Jinnah's Marines moved in tight formation just like they had trained. When they found Devourers, they opened fire. The bullets tore through the creatures. When the Devourers got too close, the Marines threw grenades. When the corridors got too tight, they used flamethrowers. The alien refugees watched in amazement and terror. They had never seen anything like this. These human soldiers fought with a skill and brutality that came from centuries of war. Every movement was practiced. Every shot was aimed. There was no hesitation, no panic. Clear left. Grenade out. Moving up. The military words meant nothing to the aliens, but they understood the results. The Devourers died. The Marines pushed them back, corridor by corridor, room by room. Jinnah found a group of Devourers trying to break into a refugee shelter. Inside, thousands of alien children were hiding. She didn't hesitate. She pulled the pin on a grenade and threw it perfectly. The explosion killed all the devourers instantly. "The door is safe," she told the terrified aliens inside. "Stay here, we'll protect you." The battle for Sanctuary Station lasted 6 hours. When it was over, every devourer on the station was dead. The Marines had lost 300 people, but they had saved 3 million aliens. Jinnah sat down in one of the corridors, exhausted. Her armor was covered in alien blood and burn marks. A young alien child, some species Jinnah didn't recognize, walked up to her timidly. "Thank you," the child said in broken English. "You saved us." Jinnah smiled tiredly. "That's what we do, kid." Back on the Defiance, Minyu watched the reports come in. The battle was won. Sanctuary Station was safe. But more importantly, something had changed. The Council forces were fighting differently now. They had watched the humans and learned. They were using tactics they had forgotten, being more aggressive, taking more risks. Doctor came to the bridge with her latest analysis. "Admiral, I've been tracking the swarm's movements. They're all coming from one direction. I think I found their home base." Minyu looked at her data. Far behind enemy lines, in a system the Devourers had completely consumed, was a massive structure. It was the size of a small moon, made entirely of organic matter. "That's their nexus," said. "The center of the hive mind. If we destroy that, the entire swarm will lose coordination permanently." "How far into enemy territory is it?" "Deep, very deep. We'd have to fight through millions of Devourers to get there." Minyu stared at the image of the Nexus. He knew what had to be done. "Start planning an attack. Get me Engineer Han and Captain. We're going to cut the head off this monster." Outside the window, the stars shone peacefully, but Minyu knew that peace was about to end. The real battle was coming. The war room was full of tension. Admiral Minyu stood at the table, looking at the holographic map that showed the Nexus location. Captain, Engineer, Doctor, Commander, and Lieutenant Sara were all there. So was Commander, representing the Council forces. "This is madness," said, staring at the map. "That Nexus is surrounded by the entire Devourer fleet, millions of them, maybe billions. No ship has ever gone that deep and returned." "Then we'll be the first," Minyu said calmly. "Admiral, please listen," pleaded. "I have come to respect humans greatly, but this is suicide. Even with your remarkable weapons, you cannot fight through that many enemies." "We don't have to fight all of them," Doctor said. "Just enough to reach the Nexus. Once we destroy it, the hive mind collapses. Every devourer in the galaxy will become stupid and uncoordinated." "If you even reach it," said, "and that's a very big if." Minyu looked around the table. "I'm not ordering anyone to come. This mission is volunteer only. If we fail, Earth will still have enough ships to defend itself. But if we succeed, we end this war." "I'm going," said immediately. "The Defiance will lead the attack." "My fighters are ready," Sora said. The young pilot looked scared but determined. "I'll need to come to analyze the Nexus structure," said, "to find the best place to hit it. And I'll keep the ships running," added. "Someone has to fix all the damage you crazy people will take." Nodded. "Tactical support, you'll need it." Minyu felt pride in his chest. These people knew the odds, but they were still willing to go. "Then we'll take 30 ships, the fastest and most heavily armed. We load them with every weapon we have. Antimatter bombs, singularity missiles, and—" He paused. "Engineer Han, how's that planet killer coming along?" Grinned. "The planet cracker is ready. One shot can destabilize a moon-sized object. But Admiral, if we use it at close range, we'll be in the blast zone." "Then we better be far away when we fire it," Minyu said. Looked at them all like they were insane. "You're really going to do this?" "Yes," Minyu said simply. Then I'm coming too, with 20 of my ships. Someone needs to make sure you humans don't get yourselves killed." Minyu smiled and offered his hand. looked at it confused until he realized it was a human gesture of friendship. He shook it awkwardly. "One more thing," said. "The Council has approved the use of our experimental weapons. We've been holding them back because they're too dangerous. But if humans can be this brave, we can take risks too." 3 days later, the strike force was ready. 30 human ships and 20 Council ships, all loaded with enough weapons to destroy a small solar system. The crews said goodbye to their friends. Many wrote last letters home. Everyone knew this might be a one-way trip. Lieutenant Sora sat in her fighter, checking the controls one more time. Her hands were shaking slightly. She was 28 years old and had never expected to die in space. But if she had to die, at least it would be for something important. The strike force jumped to hyperspace. They traveled for 2 days, moving deeper into Devourer territory than any ship had gone before. The space around them became darker, emptier. The Devourers had consumed everything here. No planets, no asteroids, nothing. Just empty space and the distant nexus. When they dropped out of hyperspace, they found themselves exactly where they didn't want to be. Surrounded. "Contacts on all sides," shouted. "Hundreds of thousands of them, no wait, millions." The Devourers came from every direction like a tidal wave of flesh and claws. The sky was full of them, blocking out the stars. "All ships forward thrust maximum," ordered. "We're not fighting them, we're running through them." The strike force accelerated to maximum speed. The ships moved in a tight arrow formation, with the Defiance at the tip. The Devourers swarmed around them, trying to slow them down. "Fire all forward weapons," Minyu commanded. Blazed, creating a path through the swarm. Nuclear missiles exploded like fireworks. The ships punched through the first wave of Devourers, leaving thousands of dead creatures behind. But more came, always more. A Council ship on the edge of the formation was overwhelmed. The Devourers covered it completely, and within seconds the ship exploded. "Keep moving," Minyu shouted. "Don't stop for anything." Sora's fighter squadron flew around the larger ships, protecting their flanks. The small fighters were faster than the Devourers and could dodge their attacks, but there were so many enemies. For every Devourer they killed, 10 more took its place. "Sora, your squadron is getting too spread out," warned. "Pull back to the main formation." "Negative," Sora replied. "We can do more damage out here. Just keep moving, we'll catch up." Another human ship died, torn apart by the swarm. Then another. The crews fought bravely, taking thousands of Devourers with them, but the odds were overwhelming. Worked frantically in the engine room, keeping the Defiance running at maximum power. "Admiral, the engines are overheating. We can't maintain this speed much longer." "How long?" Minyu asked. 20 minutes, maybe 30. "The Nexus is 15 minutes away," said, checking her sensors. "We can make it." But the Devourers had other ideas. They weren't just attacking randomly anymore. They were organized, trying to surround the fleet and trap it. The hive mind was learning their tactics. "They're trying to cut us off," warned. "There's a massive swarm forming ahead of us." His voice came over the communication channel. "Human fleet, this is. My ships will break through the swarm ahead. We'll clear a path, don't stop for us." "Wait," Minyu started to say. But the Council ships were already accelerating ahead. They activated their experimental weapons, things even Minyu had never seen. Reality itself seemed to bend around their ships. Space rippled and folded. The Devourers in front of them simply ceased to exist, erased from reality. The Council ships cleared a massive path, but the weapons were burning them out. One by one, the ships began to fail, their crews sacrificing themselves to keep the path open. "Go," shouted, "go now." The human fleet rushed through the gap. Behind them, the last Council ship exploded in a burst of light, and his brave crews were gone, but they had given Earth's fleet the chance they needed. "I can see it," shouted, "the Nexus dead ahead." The structure appeared before them, massive and horrible. It looked like a moon made of flesh and bone, pulsing with disgusting organic light. Millions of devourers swarmed around it like insects protecting their queen. Only 10 human ships remained, 10 out of 50 that had started the mission. They were battered, damaged, barely holding together, but they had made it. All ships fire everything you have at the Nexus, Minyu ordered. Antimatter bombs struck the Nexus first, creating explosions of pure energy. The organic structure screamed, a sound that came through space itself. Singularity missiles followed, creating tiny black holes that tore chunks out of the Nexus. But it wasn't enough. The Nexus was healing itself, growing new flesh to replace what was destroyed. "It's regenerating," said in horror. "It's too big, we can't destroy it fast enough." Sora's voice came over the radio. "Admiral, I have an idea, but you're not going to like it." "What is it, Lieutenant?" "My fighter is full of antimatter warheads. If I fly directly into the Nexus core and detonate them all at once, it might be enough to stop the regeneration." "No," Minyu said immediately. "We'll find another way." "There is no other way, sir. The Nexus is protected by too many devourers. A fighter can get through, a ship can't." Grabbed Minyu's arm. "Admiral, she's right, it's the only way." Minyu felt something break inside him. Sora was so young, she had her whole life ahead of her. "Lieutenant Sora, I can't order you to do this." "You're not ordering me, sir. I'm volunteering. This is what I signed up for, to protect Earth." "There has to be another." "Admiral," Sora interrupted gently, "let me do this. Let me be a hero." Minyu closed his eyes. Tears ran down his face. "Godspeed, Lieutenant. Earth will remember you." "Thank you, sir. It's been an honor." Sora's fighter accelerated toward the Nexus, dodging through the swarm of devourers. Her hands were steady now, no more shaking. She felt calm. She thought about her family back on Earth, her little brother who looked up to her parents who were so proud when she joined the fleet. "This is for you," she whispered. "This is for everyone back home." The fighter plunged into the Nexus, deep into its core. Sora didn't hesitate. She activated all the antimatter warheads at once. The explosion lit up the entire system. The light from the explosion was so bright that the sensors on every ship went dark for several seconds. When they came back online, the Nexus was gone. Where the massive organic moon had been, there was only debris and dust spreading through space. Admiral Minyu stood on the bridge of the Defiance, staring at the empty space where Lieutenant Sora had sacrificed herself. Around him, the crew was silent. No one spoke. No one moved. Then the sensors started picking up something strange. All across the system, the Devourers were changing. They stopped attacking. They stopped moving in coordination. They just drifted in space, confused and mindless. "The hive mind is collapsing," Doctor said quietly. "Without the Nexus, they can't communicate. They're just animals now, stupid, uncoordinated animals." Commander checked his long-range sensors. "Admiral, reports are coming in from all across the war zone. The Devourers everywhere are losing coordination. The Council forces are pushing them back. We're winning." Winning, they had won, but the victory felt hollow. Minyu looked at the list of casualties on his screen. Of the 50 ships that started the mission, only 9 returned. 41 ships destroyed, 23,000 people dead, and Lieutenant Sora who gave her life to save everyone. "Captain," Minyu said, his voice rough with emotion, "take us home, take us back to Earth." The journey back took a week. The 9 surviving ships limped home, damaged, and along the way they passed through systems that the Devourers had attacked. Now those systems were being liberated by Council forces. Everywhere they went, aliens came out to thank them. The human ships that had saved the galaxy. When they finally arrived at Earth, the whole planet was celebrating. The orbital stations were full of ships, decorated with lights and banners. Messages of thanks came from 1,000 worlds. But Minyu didn't feel like celebrating. He went directly to Earth's surface, to the military headquarters in Geneva. There, he had to write letters to the families of every person who died under his command. 23,000 letters, each one personal, each one painful. He wrote to Sora's parents himself. He told them how brave their daughter was, how she saved countless lives, how Earth would never forget her sacrifice. When he finished, he put his head in his hands and cried. 3 days later, the Galactic Council convened an emergency meeting. Ambassador stood before the assembled representatives of 1,000 species. His voice was strong and clear. For millions of years, the Council has protected the galaxy. We thought we were invincible. We thought our advanced technology made us superior. Then the Devourers came, and we learned how wrong we were. He paused, letting his words sink in. Humanity, the youngest species in the Council, saved us. They used weapons we considered primitive. They fought with tactics we had forgotten. They sacrificed themselves without hesitation. Admiral Minu and his fleet did what our ancient civilizations could not do. They won. The council chamber erupted in applause. Every species present stood and honored the humans. Continued. Today, the council offers humanity a permanent seat at the leadership table. More than that, we ask Earth to lead our military forces, to teach us what we have forgotten, to remind us that survival sometimes requires brutal choices. Back on Earth, Admiral Minu stood at the memorial wall in the orbital station. The wall was made of black stone, and on it were carved the names of every human who died in the war. 23,000 names. At the very top, in letters of gold, was one name, Lieutenant Sora. Minu placed his hand on her name. You were right, Sora. You are a hero. Earth will never forget you. Captain joined him at the wall. She had been promoted to admiral, but she didn't feel any joy from it. Too many friends were on this wall. They're offering you a position, said. Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense Forces. Every military force in the galaxy would answer to you. I know, Minu said. I'm trying to decide if I should accept. What did your daughter say? Minu smiled sadly. She said Daddy is a hero who saves people. She doesn't understand that heroes are just people who do terrible things for good reasons. Will you accept? Minu looked at all the names on the wall. 23,000 people who trusted him to lead them, who followed his orders into hell and never came back. Yes, he said finally, I'll accept, because if I don't, their sacrifice means nothing. They died to save the galaxy. The least I can do is make sure the galaxy stays saved. Doctor was offered a position with the Galactic Science Directorate. She accepted and immediately began working with alien scientists to develop new weapons and defenses. She combined human practicality with alien advanced technology, creating things neither species could have made alone. Engineer led the construction of a new fleet. The ships were hybrids, using the best of both human and alien design. They had the beautiful, efficient forms of council ships, but they carried the brutal, effective weapons of Earth, and plasma cannons side by side, nuclear missiles and energy shields working together. Sergeant Jinnah became an instructor, teaching alien soldiers how humans fought. At first, the aliens were shocked by human tactics. Humans fought dirty. They used cover and ambushes. They threw grenades into rooms before entering. They shot to kill, not to stun. But slowly the aliens learned. They learned that war is not about being honorable or fair. War is about surviving, and humans were experts at survival. Months passed. The galaxy slowly recovered from the war. The Devourers were hunted down and destroyed. Without their hive mind, they were easy prey. The systems they had consumed were empty but could be rebuilt. One day, Ambassador visited Minu in his new office. The office overlooked Earth from orbit, showing the blue planet in all its beauty. Admiral, I must tell you something, said. The Council is receiving requests from dozens of species. They all want human military advisors. They want to learn how to fight like you. I hope they understand what they're asking for, Minyu said. Human warfare is not pretty. It's brutal and bloody. We use weapons that cause terrible suffering. We make choices that haunt us forever. They understand, or at least they're beginning to. We were soft, Admiral. Millions of years of peace made us weak. You reminded us that peace must be defended, sometimes with violence. Minyu turned to look at. The galaxy wanted Earth's help. Now you're getting it. But once you start down this path, you can't go back. War changes everything it touches. We know, but the alternative is extinction. The Devourers proved that. There are threats in the universe that don't care about diplomacy or treaties. Sometimes you must fight. Then we'll teach you to fight. But remember this, Ambassador. Earth didn't become good at warfare because we wanted to. We became good at it because we had to. We fought each other for thousands of years. We nearly destroyed ourselves dozens of times. That's the price of our knowledge. A heavy price, agreed. Yes, and now the galaxy will pay it too. 6 months after the war ended, Earth held a ceremony. Every person who died in the war was honored. Their names were read aloud, all 23,000 of them. It took 3 days to read every name. On the final day, Minyu stood before the memorial and gave a speech. These people were our friends, our family, our fellow humans. They went into space to save species they had never met. They fought an enemy that terrified the entire galaxy, and they won. He paused, looking at the crowd. Thousands of people, human and alien, had come to pay their respects. But their victory came at a terrible cost. They paid with their lives so that others could live. They showed the galaxy what humanity is capable of. Not just our weapons or our tactics, but our courage, our determination, our willingness to sacrifice everything for what's right. He looked up at the memorial wall, at Sora's name shining in gold. We will remember them, every day, every hour. Every time we look at the stars, we'll remember that our people are out there, making sure those stars stay free, making sure that the Devourers and anything like them never threaten the galaxy again. The crowd was silent. Then, slowly, people began to place flowers at the base of the memorial. Humans brought roses and lilies. Aliens brought flowers from their home worlds, strange and beautiful blooms in colors that Earth had never seen. That evening, Minyu returned to his daughter. She was 7 now, old enough to start understanding what her father did. "Daddy, did you really save the galaxy?" she asked. Minyu picked her up and held her close. "I helped, baby. A lot of brave people helped, and some of them didn't come home." "Like Sora." Minyu was surprised she remembered. He had told her about Sora once. Yes, like Sora. "Is she a hero?" "The biggest hero of them all." His daughter thought about this for a moment. "When I grow up, I want to be like her. I want to help people." Minyu hugged her. He didn't want his daughter to go to war. He didn't want her to see the things he had seen, but he was proud of her anyway. "Then be like her," he said. "Be brave, be kind. And always remember that the greatest heroes are the ones who help others, even when it's hard." Far above, in the orbital station, Captain looked down at Earth. The blue planet spun peacefully below, unaware that its children had changed the galaxy forever. She thought about all the people who didn't come home. She thought about and his crew who sacrificed themselves to save the human fleet. She thought about Sora, flying her fighter into the heart of the Nexus. "We did it," she whispered to the empty bridge. "We saved them all. I hope you're proud of us wherever you are." The stars didn't answer, but somehow felt that Sora would have been proud. Earth's war fleet had responded to the galactic distress call, and they had answered it in the only way humans knew how. With courage, with sacrifice, and with an unbreakable determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. The galaxy would never be the same, and Earth, the young species that everyone had underestimated, had become its guardian. The species that remembered how to fight. The species that would never let the darkness win. The war was over, but Earth's watch had just begun.